Hello and welcome to Serie A Spotlight, brought to you by the Football Diary podcast. And we are talking about match week 2 in Serie A this week. Another brilliant week to bring to you. 30 goals again in Serie A this weekend. But I think we all know what the first headline is. And probably for the last time in this league, Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, obviously, we talked about it in great length on our other show, our main show of the podcast, but it's worth noting that Juventus started life without Cristiano pretty poorly. After last week, the club came out and denied the idea that he would be leaving. Nedved and Allegri both came out and said that the choice for him to be on the bench was nothing to do with a potential transfer. He, of course, has departed Serie A to go to Manchester United. It's difficult news for Serie A. We mentioned last week, it's a lot of big names leaving the league, and Ronaldo obviously was a huge commercial pull. There's been a lot of talk about whether Ronaldo actually, although he was successful at Juventus, made the team slightly worse. Well, that definitely wasn't on show this week. Newly promoted side Empoli beat them 1-0 at home as well. Juventus started with a very odd lineup. Danilo, formerly of Manchester City and Real Madrid, definitely a right back, started in central midfield. It wasn't really the right sort of selection, and Juventus really seemed to be missing a playmaker. All the talk of Miralem Pjanic coming back never materialised, and really, could Juve have done more to get a new talisman in the middle to replace Ronaldo? They were relying heavily on Federico Chiesa, who for the first half seemed to just be taking everything on himself. All that seemed to happen was he was picking up the ball and trying to beat every defender there was, and unfortunately couldn't find the end product. Someone who did, though, was Empoli's captain, Mancuso, who managed to get the promoted side a 1-0 lead early in the first half. After that, they probably could have extended their lead. Efforts from Cutrone and also a bad header back towards goal from Chiesa nearly doubled Empoli's lead. Juventus then just couldn't break them down. They brought on Morata, Locatelli, Kulusevski, Bernardeschi, but they still couldn't equalise. They just really lacked creativity, and Empoli were good value for their win. Juventus had more efforts on goal, but not by much, and Empoli were definitely clearer with some of their chances. So it's going to be an interesting one for Juventus and what they can produce from this. After a very slow start, they drew their first game, don't forget, and have since lost Ronaldo. So up to them really to pick themselves back up and get themselves into this title race. Someone who may be in the title race, though, is Jose Mourinho's Roma, who continue their outstanding form, mainly based on the fact that there are a lot of players that seem really in form. No one more so than captain Lorenzo Pellegrini, who got a double in this game. Made it 1-0, only for Jordan Veretout to also score in consecutive games. A brilliant passing move between him, Tammy Abraham and Mkhitaryan to set him up in the box to finish calmly. Tammy Abraham wasn't done there, though. He got his first goal for Roma as well. Fantastically finished as well. Across the box on his right foot, opposite side of the goal, off the post. Beautiful finish, definitely worth looking at. The first of many for Abraham, who seems to have settled really well. He seems to have bonded well with his teammates. There's a great atmosphere on the pitch, and he seems to have already got a lot of unity with that Roma side. Definitely Mourinho's leader on the pitch as well. Pellegrini then made it 4-0. Wonderful cold effort from the edge of the box after receiving great praise from Mourinho as well, who said earlier in the week that if he had 6 Pellegrinis would start. Well, they would have won 12-0 then, if this is anything to go by. A brilliant performance from Roma again as they continue fine form going into the international break. Another win also for AC Milan, who beat Cagliari 4-1. Giroud, really worth noting in this game. He was fantastic. Early signs were good. Him and Rafael Leao were linking up really well up front. Good interplay, good passing football. And it was Tonali who actually broke the deadlock with a wonderful free kick. Cagliari did equalise, but then were hit with some pretty bad fortune as Rafael Leao hit Brahim Diaz with a very deflected effort. Diaz ran away celebrating as if it was his goal, but he knew absolutely nothing about it, it's worth saying. And then it was time for Olivier Giroud to step up and get his first goals in an AC Milan shirt. A wonderful left-footed effort from outside of the, from just inside the box, to make it 3-1. And then he scored one from the penalty spot to make it 2 wins from 2 for AC Milan. Another side with a 100% record is Lazio, and they did it in style. A 6-1 win against Spezia this weekend. Spezia actually took the lead after 3 minutes with Verde, and that seemed to just anger Lazio more than anything. Immobile went on to have an outstanding first half. His first goal, a lovely dink finish over the keeper. Number 2 swept in from just outside the box. and then Pedro was brought down for a penalty, and Immobile went to go and get his hat-trick in the first half, but it was saved by the keeper. But it was okay, he wasn't made to wait for long. He headed home from a corner, also inside the first half, to complete the 45-minute hat-trick. Felipe Anderson then was the talking point of the second half, the West Ham man at Lazio now. He got the fourth and then was brought down by Amiens, who was sent off for being the last man. Then there was a lovely through ball to new right back Hisaj, who made it 5-1, and Luis Alberto rifled in one just from outside the box to make it 6-1. A great start for Maurizio Sarri's side, as they kind of put themselves in the title conversation. But the title is there to be taken off Inter Milan, who got a 3-1 winner for Hellas Verona this weekend. Ivan Ilicic made it 1-0 to Hellas Verona after Handanovic made a horrible mistake, a really bad pass out towards a defender that completely missed his man, and then the ball was dinked over him by Ilicic fantastically. Verona then had chances to make it 2, really, but it was Lautaro Martinez who made it 1-1 in the first minute of the second half. A long throw in by Perisic, flicked on by Edin Dzeko, and Martinez was there to finish. He then had a chance of getting his second with exactly the same routine. Perisic threw it in long, Dzeko headed it back, and then Lautaro Martinez volleyed just wide after the same routine completely undid Hellas Verona. It was there to be won by Inter Milan, and it was won by a substitute and new signing on his debut, Correa, who came off the bench to score a header to make it 2-1, and then a lovely left-footed finish to make it 3-1. So a dream debut for him, and a great start for Inzaghi at Inter Milan. 2 wins out of 2 and 7 goals scored. So a great start for them, and I'm sure more to come, but their attacking players really seem to click in this game. So a great start to the season for them with the absence of Lukaku. A few other games to just talk about quickly. Udinese won 3-0 over Venezia after their opening weekend draw with Juventus, including a second goal in 2 games for Gerard Deulofeu. Napoli beat Genoa 2-1. Fabian Ruiz scored a lovely goal after a great first half showing from Insigne. He just seemed to be on a mission this week and was brilliant. Veteran Gordon Pandev then had one ruled out by VAR after a foul on the goalkeeper, but Genoa did get an equaliser through local boy and debutant left-back Cambiasso. Spalletti's substitute Petagna headed the winner from a corner late on. Fiorentina are worth mentioning too. They got a 2-1 win over Torino. It was a good win for them, but really their main triumph was holding on to their 2 star players. They didn't lose Milinkovic or Vlahovic. And Vlahovic actually scored a wonderful header for Fiorentina's second. They also did some good business bringing players in. They brought Odriozola in on loan from Real Madrid. They've already brought in Lucas Torreira, and I'm sure you remember Nastasic from his days at Man City. He's joined them too. So a good week for Fiorentina, definitely, and the win capped that off nicely. Atalanta, very frustratingly held by Bologna. They had 22 attempts on goal, but failed to score. They seemed to be really missing Duvan Zapata. And Sassuolo also were held 0-0 by Sampdoria in a pretty unremarkable game. But they were the only 2 goalless draws of Serie A this weekend, and some brilliant games in there. Definitely worth looking at some of the highlights from the Lazio game and the Roma game. See Tammy Abraham's lovely goal. Other talking points really were the transfers as we approach the end of the market. I think some interesting ones to look out for. Ethan Ampadu making a loan move over to Italy. He's joined Venezia on loan from Chelsea this season. I'll be interested to see how the Welshman does there. Moise Kean has gone back to Juventus after a pretty decent spell at PSG, but let's be honest, not the best time at Everton. Allegri really got the best out of him when he was last there, so I'd love to see him thrive there again, and maybe he's the man to replace Ronaldo up top. Dennis Pratt has gone on loan to Torino from Leicester, another good player from the Premier League making the move out to Italy. But really, I think the transfer window can be seen as a little bit disappointing for Serie A fans. Seeing Lukaku leave, seeing Ronaldo leave, it's going to be tough. I'll be interested to see how Juventus respond. I think they missed out on some key targets. Locatelli still came in, and it'd be interesting to see how he settles. But for me, going into the international break, the main winners are the 2 clubs from Rome. Lazio being fantastic to start the season, and Tammy Abraham and Jose Mourinho over at Roma seem to have settled in incredibly well, with some brilliant performances from Pellegrini and Veretout too, with Mkhitaryan chipping in. So exciting times if you are in Rome, but also exciting times to be watching Serie A. Even with the big name departures, let's keep our focus on how many goals are flying in this league, how entertaining it's been. And after the international break, we'll be back with the Serie A spotlight for week 3. Thank you for watching. I'm Miles from the Football Diary podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, look at the socials, and also look out for our main show, of course. Also worth noting on Italian football, we had a special show by Mike on Cristiano Ronaldo signing for Manchester United. So any Serie A fans who are interested to see what the perception of him in England by Man United fans is, please go and give that a check out. Thank you so much again for watching. This has been Serie A Spotlight by the Football Diary podcast.